The day I painted my fence and the HOA queen called in the cavalry. It all began with a can of cedar green paint and a quiet Saturday morning in my suburban backyard in Maple Grove, a tidy little neighborhood in Ohio. I'm Walter Thompson, 52, a retired accountant with a knack for fixing things around the house. My backyard fence, weathered to a ghostly gray, was screaming for a facelift. So, armed with a paintbrush, a pair of old jeans, and a playlist of classic rock, I set out to make it right. Little did I know that an innocent decision would spiral into a showdown with the neighborhood's self-appointed dictator, a SWAT team invasion, and a revolution that would change Maple Grove forever. Here's how it unfolded, and trust me, you'll want to stick around for the twist that brought her empire crashing down. The trouble started when I noticed the blinds twitching in the house behind mine. That's where Evelyn Harper, the iron-fisted chairwoman of our Homeowners Association, HOA, lived. Evelyn was the kind of person who'd measure your grass with a ruler and fine you for a single dandelion. Within minutes of my first brushstroke, she stormed out in a floral bathrobe, clutching a binder labeled Maple Grove Standards like it was the Constitution. "Walter," she barked, "that color isn't approved. You're defacing the neighborhood." I glanced at my fence, then at the paint can. It was green, not glow-in-the-dark pink. I told her I'd checked the HOA rules, and there was no mention of backyard fence colors. She scoffed, muttered about an emergency violation, and started snapping photos of me like I was a wanted criminal. I laughed it off, thinking she was just being her usual overzealous self. That was my first mistake. 2 hours later, a timid knock interrupted my painting. It was George, a nervous HOA board member, holding a citation for unauthorized exterior modification with a $250 fine. Stammering, he admitted Evelyn had rewritten the HOA rules that morning, adding a new section on fence colors without a vote. I was stunned. Could she do that? I snapped a photo of the citation and posted it on a neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, "Fined $250 for painting my fence green." HOA gone wild. Within hours, the post had hundreds of likes and comments. Neighbors I barely knew shared their own Evelyn horror story fines for Christmas lights left up past January 1st, complaints about noisy bird feeders. The post went viral, and I could feel the ground shifting. Then things took a wild turn. From my kitchen window, I saw Evelyn pacing her yard, yelling into her phone about safety hazards and noncompliance. My neighbor, Sally, whispered, "You better record this." I grabbed my phone just as Evelyn dialed 911, claiming, "A man is using dangerous chemicals and defying authority." I thought she was bluffing until 3 police cars screeched into our cul-de-sac, followed by a SWAT van. My dog, Rusty, went berserk, knocking over a paint can as officers in tactical gear stormed my lawn. A megaphone blared, "Drop the brush and get on the ground." I stood there, paintbrush in one hand, lemonade in the other, trying to explain that it was just Home Depot latex paint. One officer looked embarrassed, another radioed for backup. Before I could blink, they tossed a flashbang into my bird bath, sending water and feathers flying. My neighbors watched in disbelief, some filming, others shouting. After 10 tense minutes, they checked the paint can, realized it was non-toxic, and apologized. But the damage was done. I was zip-tied for 5 minutes, and Evelyn was fake crying into her garden gloves, pretending to be the victim. That night, my video of the fiasco hit the internet, racking up thousands of views. My inbox overflowed with messages from strangers sharing their own HOA nightmares. But the real game changer came at midnight, an anonymous email with the subject, "Evelyn's HOA scam exposed." Attached was a side-by-side comparison of the HOA bylaws from last year and the version Evelyn uploaded the day of my painting. The new version had a forged section on rear perimeter paint restrictions in a different font, with Evelyn's name in the metadata. She'd faked the rules to justify her citation. I forwarded it to my old friend, Margaret, a property lawyer. She called me, laughing so hard she could barely speak. "This isn't just petty," she said. "It's fraud." The next morning, my yard looked like a war zone: splintered mulch, a shattered bird bath, and a stray zip tie in the grass. Rusty refused to go outside without his leash. But I was done playing nice. Margaret suggested we dig deeper, so I rallied my neighbors. Linda, who'd been fined for excessive wind chime usage, shared how Evelyn had harassed her for years. Mike, a retired teacher, revealed Evelyn had reported his trash bins to the city for being out of alignment. None of these rules existed in the original bylaws. I spent hours on the HOA portal, uncovering multiple versions of the rules, all edited by Evelyn without votes or meeting minutes. Margaret confirmed this violated Ohio HOA law, which requires transparent voting for any changes. We planned our counterattack, an emergency HOA meeting. I printed the forged documents, highlighted the changes, and went door to door, sharing the truth. Neighbors were furious. One, a quiet guy named Paul, put up a sign, "Paint it green." By Thursday, Evelyn sensed trouble and sent a desperate email warning of a misinformation campaign by a rogue violator. It backfired, fueling more anger. Friday's meeting was packed 50 residents, snacks, and a rebellious vibe. Evelyn strutted in, binder in hand, but I stood up, backed by Margaret, and presented the evidence. Neighbors grilled her. Why no votes? Why her login on every edit? Evelyn snapped, shouting that we were destroying property values. Someone yelled, "We'll run it ourselves." The room erupted in cheers. We voted to suspend all recent fines and schedule a new board election. Evelyn stormed out, defeated. But the real bombshell came during the meeting. Another anonymous message evaded drone video of Evelyn's backyard. It revealed an illegal hot tub, a massive shed, and a buried propane tank, all unpermitted and hidden behind overgrown vines. Margaret and I contacted Tom, a former city inspector. He reviewed the footage and laughed. "This is a code enforcement jackpot." I spent a day at the city records office, pulling Evelyn's property permits. Her plot ended before the shed, and there was no record of a hot tub or propane tank. 5 years ago, she'd been denied a permit due to flood risks but built anyway. We filed an anonymous tip. The next morning, city trucks rolled in code enforcement, zoning, and the fire marshal. Evelyn tried to block them, waving her binder, but Tom pointed out the propane tank, a fire hazard. She screamed about sabotage, but officials ignored her. They found the shed oversized, the hot tub unsanitary, and the propane tank unapproved. Evelyn was fined $5,000 and ordered to dismantle everything. Neighbors filmed it all, and by noon, the internet was ablaze with memes like "Evelyn's secret bunker busted." Evelyn didn't go quietly. She sent an unhinged 3-page email, calling me a vigilante and the city's inspection a smear. She even sent a cease and desist letter, riddled with typos, accusing me of community destabilization. Margaret framed it for laughs. But the audit we requested was the final nail. The new HOA board, led by Mike, found Evelyn had siphoned funds $1,204 weed control that never happened, payments to her nephew for fake pamphlets, and a P.O. box linked to her name. When confronted, she had no answers. The end came during a follow-up inspection. Evelyn, refusing to comply, pushed a code officer and was handcuffed on her lawn, kicking a garden gnome as she was led to a cruiser. The neighborhood watched, some cheering, others filming. She faced charges for fraud, obstruction, and misappropriation. Her house went on the market, listed as a fixer-upper with creative outbuildings. Nobody local wanted it. Maple Grove transformed. Fences bloomed in reds, blues, and greens. Block parties replaced citations. Kids biked freely, and neighbors chatted without fear. The HOA, now transparent, passed a Harper rule requiring committee approval for new rules. I was voted onto the board and organized Paint It Free Day, where we supplied paint for anyone to redo their fences. A home improvement brand offered to license my cedar green as Rebel Green, donating proceeds to our community fund. The news ran a segment, "The Fence That Toppled a Tyrant," featuring our thriving gardens and Rusty in sunglasses by my fence. As I sat on my porch, watching kids draw chalk art and neighbors laugh, I realized we hadn't just beaten Evelyn. We'd reclaimed our home, our peace, our freedom. My fence, still half-painted, stood as a monument to what happens when you stand up to a bully. And that half-can of paint? It's ready for the next fight, though I hope we never need it. What do you think? Have you ever faced a bully like Evelyn? Or seen injustice spark a fight in your community? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about standing up to power and what it means to fight for fairness. Your voice matters.